I just want to do God's will.
The kind of revolution that the world needs is a Christian revolution.
If you want a miracle, you've got to expect it to happen.
You are the recipients of God's grace and God's blessings, and you rejoice in that reality.
Welcome to Life Today Live. You know, for many years, about 6-7 years, here at Life Outreach International, we were following, we know Kelly Shackelford over at the Liberty Institute. We've been following this case that eventually went to the Supreme Court around a coach named Joe Kennedy, high school football coach who would take a knee after a game quietly, say a prayer, and eventually lost his job for that. And it became this big thing all the way to the Supreme Court where he won. If you don't know the end of the story, I'll give you that spoiler. But how do we get there? I mean, I grew up, you know, my Fellowship of Christian Athletes group, we'd go pray after the football games in high school, and sometimes the other team would come up. Nobody had to. Nobody cared. Most people thought it was good because, I mean, it's better than what a lot of high school kids were doing, you know. So how did we get to a point in our country where to say a prayer, even silently by yourself, where people could see you praying? Oh, my gosh, that's a fireable offense. How in the world do we get there? And how do we get out of it? And what happened to Joe Kennedy? We're going to cover as much as we can today. Can't cover all of it. And the good news is that there's a book out now that tells the whole story for those of you who are interested, who want to go, you know, line by line through the details. The book is called Average Joe. Great title, by the way. I think it hits at a couple of things because this could happen to anybody. And it's a weird thing in our country, but that's where we're at. We're going to try to deal with it. So appreciate you guys being here. If you're watching us live, you're invited to be a part of the conversation. If you're in a chat-enabled place like Facebook or YouTube or Twitch, and I think Twitter. Yeah, I can see that one too. Joe, by the way, great to have you. I appreciate you taking the time to be here and talk to us today.
Oh, absolutely, Randy. It's a pleasure. So
a little backstory for people who don't know, because I think that the prologue is actually quite important here, because you started with this high school in Washington State in, was it 2008? Is that correct?
Right after I got out of the Marine Corps.
Yeah. Oh, okay, right. And what's the term you guys use? Not a former Marine or not ex-Marine.
You nailed it. Former Marine.
Is a former Marine. All right, because there's no ex-Marines. You're just a former. Okay. But it's okay. Right. So coming out of the Marine Corps and then going to coach high school football, and you at that time were, after a game, by yourself, just taking a knee on the field, saying a 15, 30-second kind of prayer? Is that all it was?
Yeah, it started out all by myself. It was just me taking a knee, maybe 20 seconds, maybe 30 on a good day. I'm not a great guy that prays a lot. It's just, God, you're awesome. Thanks for letting me be here. And those guys for what they did on the field. So it was something just really simple and being thankful.
Yeah, I mean, as far as everybody else is concerned, you could have been tying your shoe, you know. But some students did notice and started joining you over the years.
Yeah, a couple of them noticed, and they asked, Coach, can we join you? And when they first asked what I was doing, I said, I was just thanking God for what you guys did out there. Yeah. And they wanted to join. I said, it's a free country. You can do whatever you want. So they started coming out. And then over the years, they more started coming out. And, you know, depending on win or loss, if they came out, you know, if you get a good spanking, the kids definitely are not grateful or thankful for anything. And, you know, the same thing goes if you win really big. You know, they're so full of excitement, they lose their minds and they just go off and want to celebrate instead of thanking God.
Sure. But at no point did you ever, as a coach, you didn't favor one kid because he would come pray over another kid or anything like that, right?
No, absolutely not. And the thing, the surprising thing about it is two of the kids that over the years that actually said, hey, Coach, I don't want to have anything to do with the prayer. And I was so impressed with those young men because they showed, you know, a backbone and such great leadership on my team. Two of those guys were my team captains.
All right. So, I mean, from a distance, this looks like kind of just America, right? It's a free country. Do what you want to do. Is it really that simple, or is there something else going on that we don't know about?
So that's what baffled me. I didn't understand why this was newsworthy. Why did this go even to court? How could this be in America where something like this ended up happening and making it to headline news to the Supreme Court and being a book and everything else? And it makes absolutely no sense in America.
So in 2015, what happened that kind of started this whole thing?
One of the educators from another school district saw what we were doing and felt compelled to call our principal and let him know, hey, I just went to a football game, first one I've been to, and I just want to tell you what your football program is doing is awesome. And so, of course, the principal wants to find out what we're doing. That was awesome. Started a big old thing, and then their lawyers got a little squishy about it, and were um, they were risk adverse. And next thing you know, it gets out to the public about prayer. And then, you get the freaks from religious foundation or whatever they're called, and they wanted it removed. And of course, the school will, they don't want to fight with anybody, and they don't want to back anybody's constitutional rights. So they ended up turning me down and end up firing me for it.
To me, okay, a couple of things. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
A couple of things.
You process it.
Right. Okay. One. So you're suggesting, because I didn't know this, the person from the other school that saw you praying meant it as a compliment?
Yes.
Oh,
it was a compliment.
That's wild. Okay. And your school that ended up firing you, did you sense any malice on their part, any hostility on their part, or was it just almost like fear of, we don't want any part of this, we're scared of what could happen to us? Cowardice?
Well, it depends on what you define as the school, because most of the people in the school were my friends. The superintendent was and is a dear friend of mine. And all these people, we spent holidays together. My wife worked there and for over a decade. So, I mean, this wasn't like I just started there and I was the enemy. These guys are friends of ours. So it started out where we were trying to figure out, how do we get out of the mess we're in? It's in the news. It's this big thing. And it just picked up speed. And of course, it was their lawyers that was the one driving it. Yeah. And the school board, they are going to listen to, of course, their lawyers. The superintendent's going to listen to the lawyers because they're afraid of being sued. And I told them, I was like, Aaron, you don't understand. You're talking about a hypothetical thing. Their whole premise was this could potentially become a establishment clause violation. And I'm like, you're talking about a potential thing. I guarantee you, if you do anything, I will sue you, a guaranteed lawsuit, because I will fight and defend the Constitution. The First Amendment means of the world to me.
I need to read the book, because I didn't realize that you guys were friends. I mean, it sounds like it was your circle, your school was not the villain, but really caught in the middle.
I still say that to today, and it's really sad. I did lose friends over this because some people did draw lines. But I'd say the large part of the school district was actually on my side, and they were victims of it. I hated this. All of us hated this, and especially my wife. She was put in the middle of all this also.
Well, okay, now that's another interesting point, because, okay, so that's 2015. They do fire you. You do sue for what, wrongful termination? Was that the original legal thing?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And you spent, it was 7 years. It wasn't until June or summer of 2022 that the Supreme Court ruled in your favor, which means you went through the district court, or whatever they call the one, which is probably not real friendly out there. Walk us through a little bit of the legal ride, because that's crazy, man.
Oh, it absolutely was. It started out, they gave me a letter, the school district, a letter of direction. And they said, hey, stop praying with the kids. And I immediately did. I never prayed with my players again after that. But they still saw me on the field. They didn't know how to process that. And then the joining team joined me, or the opposing team. So they had no idea what do we do in case of this? So they just said, let's remove the prayer altogether. So they gave me another letter and they said, we will suspend you unless you comply with the school district's directions, which was to stop praying. And I couldn't do that. So when I did take that final knee, they suspended me for the rest of the school season. That's when we started, we filed the EEOC, the Equal Opportunity Complaint, which led to the district. Now, the district I thought we were going to win that one hands down. It made perfect sense to me. This was so silly and so dumb that anybody with common sense could figure this out. The law was on my side. The First Amendment was on my side. The facts were on my side. We presented all of that, and even the judge was saying things, just speaking things like, "Well, I prayed with my guys when I coached, and my dad did, and when I was a player." And I'm sitting there thinking, "Slam dunk, man! This is gonna be a touchdown. We're gonna." And he goes, "But," and I'm like, "Oh, anytime there's a but, and this is not a good but. This is a bad but." He says, "However, due to the today's political climate, I cannot grant you this." And I'm like, wait, the climate, you're a judge. You're not a weatherman. Why are you ruling this way? And the Ninth Circuit, they tore it apart. Ninth Circuit was really brutal. The whole left coast, they are just the Ninth Circus. And they ruled that any display of religion in the public square, you could be fired for. And you got to think about that for a second. Take the Christian side out of it. Any display of religion, if a Muslim wanted to show it, a Jewish person with their yarmulke, a cross around your neck, any display of religion could terminate you in the public square. That's scary. That's why I had to keep fighting, because I didn't want to end up being the guy that removed all the religious freedoms in America.
Yeah, I don't think any of us would have held you responsible for that. But just here's the thing: you're taking a knee after a game on the field. You're not saying a word out loud. No, nothing, right? Especially the last time, right?
The last time it was just by myself.
Okay,
yep. Absolutely silent.
How do you, in a court of law, prove that you were praying? Did they just ask you?
Yeah, and. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because they didn't even ask me who I was praying to. It was,
just, I mean, it does. It really feels silly. Now, I get it. If you were compelling your players to participate in a religious activity that they did not want to participate in, I would have a problem with that. As a Christian,
would too,
right?
100%.
Right.
As an American, I would have a problem with that.
Right.
Forcing somebody to pray is just as bad as telling them that they cannot pray. I would fight just as hard. Rights are rights of Americans. And I just learned this wonderful word. I'm being interviewed by a kid in Harvard right now. And what's the word he has? It's singularity.
Okay. What's it mean?
Oh gosh, religious religious pluralism. And I had to look that up. And it's exactly that you have the free will to worship or not worship in the way you see fit. And I'm like, oh, that's it. That's what we've been saying all along.
Yeah. I mean, I would defend an atheist's right to not believe in God, even though I would at the same time try to convince him to believe in God. But from a legal standpoint, be like, you're free to not believe what I believe in. I know you're the same way, which is the foundation of religious freedom. And so to go the other direction, why do you, is this just kind of do you think this is sort of just kind of a weird ripple in the psyche of our culture at large that we could be sued, or someone might construe, or is there actually, do you think, an agenda that's coming against Christians?
I think there's an agenda more than just Christians. And I know there's the battle of good and evil always going on there behind the scenes. I know that that is going on. But the other thing that's going on is stripping away Americans from their rights. And that's plain as day. And if we end up losing our First Amendment rights, then the second, then the third, then the fourth, because it's like a domino effect. If you take away any right, all of the rest of them fall. And we've been seeing them, you just take a little bit of it and then a little bit of it and a little bit of it. So it's coming around in all directions and they're just chipping away at it. And I don't know who they are, but I know the forces of evil are definitely fighting a battle to take everybody. So I don't know where it's all coming from besides that, but it's very evident everywhere in America.
It's coming from the Biden administration right now.
Oh my goodness. Don't get me started on that, brother.
It's true. It's a fact, not a joke. All right. Okay. Sorry. All right. That is not the point of this. Here's a question. Bible says to bless those who curse you, to pray for those who persecute you. How hard was that during all this battle for you?
It wasn't tough at all. I felt bad. I felt bad for everybody. We prayed so much for everybody in the school district, even their lawyers. We really did. I tried.
They're like, stop praying, and you're like, okay, but we're gonna pray for you.
Yeah, I wanted to open court with prayer every time. Like, oh God, please let these judges pull their head out of their butts. Come on, please. It was so ridiculous. I prayed nonstop, and my wife prayed nonstop, and we really prayed for those guys, and we wanted justice for everybody.
Well, okay, that takes us to your wild Supreme Court ride. How wild was it to be the subject of a Supreme Court case, dude? That doesn't happen to everybody.
Yeah, well, it went up there twice. That's the craziest thing. We lost 7 times on the way up there. So, I think 6,000 or 7,000 cases get submitted to the Supreme Court every year. And in 2022, they only took, I think, 60 some cases. So your odds are not good. So, I mean, you think about the odds, it went up there and it got rejected. But they gave us a roadmap saying we're very concerned about these things if they're true. Go back to the lower courts, find out if these things are true, and if they are, bring it back to us. So we started the whole cycle over again and came back to the Supreme Court so that they could rule on it.
Okay.
It was absolutely insane. I can't think of anything crazier than the Supreme Court hearing a case over, and only 2 things I asked for was to get my job back and to take a knee after a football game. Only 2 things I asked for. Something simple as that.
And in the summer 2022, as we said, they sided with you. And now it was along, ideological lines. Lord knows if Trump hadn't been elected, you might have lost that case.
Amen, brother. Thank God for Trump.
Well, yeah, for all the things, as much as he annoys most of us, sometimes you wish someone would take his phone away from us so he quit tweeting. Hey, man, he gave us some people that interpret the Constitution not just in our favor. It's not just because this is the outcome we wanted, but they actually interpret they apply the law in a constitutional way, not according to the whims of society. So walk us through a little bit of the victory side with the Supreme Court. What was going on with you?
That was the most amazing thing, is that what they ruled, and they really clarified. And this was a huge learning thing for me, because there was a case back in the 70s. So 50 years, there's been this case called Lemon. It was Lemon versus Kurtzman. And not to get all nerdy about it, but my lawyers have pounded this into me for the past 8 years. But there was this case, and that it's the one that has lost religious freedom for everybody for the past 50 years. And that's how they always had measured it. Is this a religious case? Is it where it's the infringement of the endorsing of religion? And it was a Lemon test coming from the Lemon case. So Lemon test, and 7,000 cases lost because of this lemon test. This overturned lemon. And so it freed up 7,000 cases that were bad because of bad ruling, and they clarified what it's supposed to be according to the Constitution. So we have more religious freedom now than we have had in the past 50 years. This resets the clock to the way it was originally designed to, the way that the founding fathers originally designed the Constitution to and the amendments to apply to us.
So it's not just a victory on your part. This is significant in ways we probably don't even know yet.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And on my side of it, they gave me my job back and let me pray after a game. So America won, and I got what I asked for. So it was a win-win all the way around.
Now, and you hadn't coached since 2015, is that right?
That's correct. Yeah.
But so you got your job back. You were at one game. You knelt quietly, and then you resigned, right? Why
Yes.
And I thought, okay, that's interesting. I probably get it, but I'm curious from what was going on with you. Why did you take the position, take the knee, and then walk away from it?
Right. Very valid. So I went back. So when the school, as they worded, they had to reinstate me. So I went back and I was there in Bremerton, and I actually received in my hand my reinstatement letter, and that felt so good. I was nervous because I had to walk into the hornet's nest that's been festering here for the past 8 years. But I received my letter, and that was my victory. That here it is. This is the first thing that I've asked for is my job back. So I was so happy to have this piece of paper. This is half of it. Now the other half was being able to pray after a game. So I was looking forward to, well, maybe during the spring I'll take a knee and, we won't have to do anything else. Maybe I didn't know what was up because I never got to that point yet.
Yeah.
So, but they held me up with red tape. They didn't even let me walk onto the field during the spring ball. So I was annoyed, but I'm like, all right, I'll play your silly games. I said, well, I'll come back in the fall. We'll try again. I showed up for fall camp, worked out every day with the team. We did our, whole 2-a-day things. We'd have fall camp, and I got to know the guys, got to know the coaches. And when the first game came, it fulfilled the second part of what I've asked for the past 8 years. Now, a lot of things have changed. And the only thing I asked for, I told everybody I'd be on the first flight back. I got my piece of paper on the first day, and I went back for the second thing. And then my wife and I started praying about what do we do next.
Yeah.
I had a one-way ticket. I didn't know what I was going to do. So we started praying. I went to practice on Monday, and we spent all night Monday praying. We got my dad's test results on Tuesday, and they didn't look good, my father-in-law. And it was a clear sign that God's releasing us. We could go if we want to. So I went to practice Tuesday. Wednesday, we filed our letter of resignation, and we flew back to Pensacola to take care of her dad.
Okay, so you had some family situation going on that needed your attention, and yeah.
Yeah, and they were jerks to me, but that was to be expected. I knew that was going to happen.
Yeah, that's too bad. Okay, well, I'll just read this because Michael is saying, you're blessed when they insult and persecute you and falsely say every kind of evil against you because of me, right? I'm sure people read those types of scriptures to you, or you read them yourself over the years. What was your attitude while they were being jerks to you?
That's when I was trying to be that good Christian, try to love everybody.
Yeah.
And, I had death threats all the time. And there's a lot of keyboard commandos that will sit in their mom's basement and, cuss me out and everything. And I'm like, all right, tough guy, if you want to kill me, let's meet at lunch. I'll be at Noah's Ark at noon. I would challenge these guys, come and show up. Now, my wife took it a lot more serious when the school district got the death threats. They had to put cops outside and, screen people. But I don't live in fear. I was a Marine. If they want to fight, let's go. I'm not afraid of anybody.
They did pick the you don't pick a former Marine to pick a fight with. It's
Yeah,
not real smart.
wrong guy. Yeah.
At the same time, you know what? You got a platform that the average Joe doesn't get. Really, to be a witness, there's got to be a level of sobriety and the weight of where God's put you to enable you to represent Him. I mean, to me, that would be, I would be more aware of that reality than, some of the stupid things that go on the peripheral. Did you feel any kind of weight at any time?
The whole entire time.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go through any of this. I was an atheist until I got out of the Marine Corps.
Really?
And met back up with my wife. Yeah. Oh yeah. I was like, there's no God. That's just a wonderful fairy tale that people tell other people when they're about to die. All dogs go to heaven type attitude. I was very much, there is no God. When you're dead, you're dead. But then I found God to save my marriage, and oh my God, did He show up in the biggest way. I told him, hey, if you give me my wife, I'll give you my life. I had no idea He was going to take me up so literally on it. And the way I used to be, I was the biggest sinner from the moment I was born from an unwanted pregnancy. That's what the big story is, and that's why we wrote a book about it. Is the court case is just kind of a small piece of the bigger story of my life. It's too ridiculous, and God's sense of humor is just boundless of what He's done in my life. There's no way I should even be alive. And when you read the book, you're just going to crack up and go, wow, God has a sense of humor, and He is very much if you doubt there's a God, read the book and you're going to just be, there might be a God. If you don't believe, there might be a God.
There's a scripture about Him using the foolish to confound the wise, because he does, man.
Right here.
And to me, the key, and I wasn't calling you foolish, but the key is surrender. And someone who says, okay, God, I'll give it to you. Even when we don't understand entirely what we're saying, He'll do amazing things. And I think your life is a testament to that.
Yeah, He uses the weirdest people, and I wanted Him to use somebody else I felt was more qualified. Use you. You got a great platform. You were probably well versed in the Bible. I suffer so badly. I've never read the Bible. I know a couple stories in the Bible, and I need to study it, and I have a hard time even reading it. So
But so here's the thing about people that feel like they're capable, whether they are or aren't. We want to take the credit for the victory. I mean, who do you give the credit for your Supreme Court victory to, Joe?
Oh, absolutely, God.
See, there you go.
It's simple.
Yeah, it is that simple. All right, how's Florida? You like Pensacola?
It's all right. I'm trying to figure out what God's got next, because I have no idea. I don't know what I'm going to be doing. I have no clue whatsoever.
Well, I'm hoping that you'll be just surrendering to whatever He calls you to do, because that's where the fun is. That's where the peace is. That's where the joy is.
Yeah. Well, I've had my life mapped out until God got involved, and now He's taking it on a joyride, and I don't know where I'm going to end up. So I'm wherever He takes me, I'm going to go. Here I am.
Yeah, here I am. Send me, man. You're not going to go wrong with that attitude. And right now, you're promoting the book. This is Joe's book, Average Joe, the story of the guy that took a knee on a football field and wound up at the Supreme Court. And coming out next year, a movie. Tell us a little bit about the movie and where they're at on that.
Yeah, talk about crazy. That was actually in the works before the book was. Somebody heard my story, and one of First Liberty's donors heard about it and interviewed me and said, oh my gosh, there is such a story here. Yeah. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And he's like, you can't make this stuff up. So we started writing it. a screenplay, and I was like, yeah, okay, we'll do this. And that was an 8-year project because COVID and shutdowns and the whole whatever it was Writers Guild
Yeah,
thing that
strike.
they just went through.
Hmm.
So, and it all came together this year, and they just got done filming in Louisiana 2 weeks ago. And my wife and I got to be on the set, and we got to do a cameo. It was, and just there's no words to say how weird that was to see
Hmm.
that this little kid playing me, and and a 20-year-old playing me as a Marine, and this guy playing my life now. It's so bizarre just to relive some things, but really had to make my wife and I look back on our life and say, wow, we had to face some things we haven't faced in,
Mm.
40 years.
Mm. Mm. One thing I just love about your story is the truth that God will, if we surrender to Him, do amazing things. I mean, He used your situation, which at the time probably felt like it was like, God, where are you? What are you doing? To change a law, a case law that had been precedent in which a lot of cases were being decided on. You changed the law in our country for as long as we can hold it there. I mean, that's a big thing. That's a God thing.
Huge. Oh yeah, has to be. I mean, I couldn't do that. You couldn't do
I
that.
couldn't, yeah.
I don't know anybody qualified to do that. I mean, that is God. Absolutely.
I love it. And well, I encourage you, just keep that direction, pointed towards Him, and He'll lead you and do great things. And it's a wild ride. Yours a little more wild than the most, but I appreciate you. Is there anything we missed? Anything you want to add before I let you go? I appreciate your time.
No, just continue being the voice, and you're still out there fighting a good fight. And I encourage every American, and if you're an American and you're a Christian, hey, that's not a spectator sport. You need to get off your butts and get in the game. That's what we need more people doing today. It's so simple. Just stand up and be present.
Yep. And you won't end up in the Supreme Court probably like Joe. So it won't be quite the wild one. But if you want to follow up with him, his website is CoachJoeKennedy.com. Looks just like that. And you can keep up with what's going on. And next year, I'll check out the movie. That'll be a fun one. But right now, the book is available wherever you get books, called Average Joe. And it's just fascinating. So, yeah, what a story. Hit share. Let other people know about this. And if you haven't liked, followed, or subscribed, please do that. And you will get more notifications of wild interviews just like this one. We'll see you again next time here on Life Today Live.